Now on One, the BBC's Summer of Wildlife continues. Sanjida O'Connell is off to explore the urban jungle in the East Midlands.
Roads, not rivers, tower blocks instead of trees. Our cities are a very human habitat. But surprisingly, we share our homes with a wide variety of wildlife. It just takes a bit of time and patience to spot our wild neighbours. I'm Sanjida O'Connell. Welcome to the urban jungle. Welcome to Nottingham and Martin's Pond. We're surrounded by houses, but this little reserve is an oasis in the heart of the city. It's a mosaic of semi-natural habitat. We've got reed beds, open water and established woodland. And it's home to some fantastic urban wildlife, which I'll be exploring a little later. Coming up in the programme, wildlife presenter Mark O'Shea sets off on a summer photo safari around Nottingham and gets his feet wet in the city's streams.
Oh there, yes, no. That's the first bullhead I've seen. He let me touch him.
I discover how Derby paved the way for peregrine conservation and meet the bird lovers who need a head for heights. It sounds like it could be quite distressing for the mother.
Never mind about her, what about me?
Oh, I'm not bothered about you.
Fantastic.
And Mike Dilger is out after dark in Leicester in search of creatures that go bump in the night.
All of a sudden, the middle you hear like a raspberry, and that's them honing in and then eating an insect.
It's summer, we're in Nottingham. It's the perfect time to relax, chill out, hang out by the water. Except our energetic wildlife photographer and presenter, Mark O'Shea, doesn't exactly do chilling. He and 3 local photographers are going to see how much wildlife they can shoot in and around Nottingham. Fauna, flora, the more diverse the better. But don't phone in just yet, folks, because Mark's going to be judge and jury on this one and decide who gets to win the prize.
Today I'm at Trent Bridge, joining 3 local wildlife photographers, each of them with a passion for capturing the natural world on our doorstep in glorious close-up. When I'm at home, I like to photograph some of the mini beasts like mouse spiders and jumping spiders in the house. If I can photograph this sort of thing at home, what can you photograph in a city? The place is teeming with wildlife. So Claire, what have you come to see?
Today I'm going to find an urban meadow and I'm hoping to find any wildlife I can, but what I'm really looking for is some wild orchids.
Orchids aren't something I photograph, so I'd be interested to see that. Jack?
I'm going to be going to an urban stream today looking for a variety of fish species.
I'm an angler, so I'll be very interested to see what you find. And Rob?
I'm going to be visiting a power station site of Peregrine Falcon and Corn Bunting.
Well, you can't get much more urban than a power station. Wildlife around a power station. Fascinating. Well, let's get started. It's a lovely day. Let's see what we can find. Jack Perks is a local lad, massively into his wildlife. He now specialises in underwater photography. When he's not knee-deep in Cornish rock pools, you might well see him paddling in city streams. Today, he's within shouting distance of his own front door in Silverdale, Nottingham, and he's told me to wear my wetsuit. Well, there's a skateboard here which suggests that this is not a stream in the countryside. And if I'm not mistaken, that's a golf ball. And there's another one over there. And has a rat just come down the wall over there?
Yeah, there's a few of those in here.
Right, should we have a look underneath that skateboard, see if it's provided home for anything? Oh, there, yes. Oh, yes. No, that's the first bullhead I've seen. He's let me touch him. Tell us a little bit about this, Jack.
So these are primarily bottom-dwelling fish, and they tend to live under the stones and things.
And they're using the environment to their benefits. They're living under bricks, house bricks.
Yeah, there's a lot of
skateboards.
Yeah, they use it to shelter under and breed and things. And you'll normally only find 1 bullhead under each rock because they're territorial. And they're that confident in their camouflage, you can do what you've just done, which is to pick them up. And they just assume that you can't see them.
Yes.
Which for photography is really handy because they don't move.
Well, put that thing back. Streams and rivers running through towns and cities might not be everybody's idea of the wind in the willows, but watercourses like this can have a huge amount of nutrients, and with that comes high diversity in wildlife. This stream is a lot richer than it looks. Next, I'm joining Claire Greenaway, a mature student who lives and studies in Nottingham. Claire's told me she's in search of wild flowers in the city centre, and in particular urban orchids. Well, Claire, we've got the NG2 industrial estate, the container yard, the city of Nottingham skyline and the River Leen here, but you've got a real wildlife oasis. Tell me about it.
Yeah, this is beautiful. It's an urban meadow which is just teeming with wildlife. What we're hoping to find today is some wild orchids, but let's just go inside and what we can see.
Absolutely. So we've got a brownfield reserve site here, and it's not just orchids. I mean, these aren't orchids, but...
No, these are beautiful. They're oxeye daisies. So most people know daisies from their gardens, but these are just like giant forms of those daisies.
I know. It's like honey, I shrunk the gardener, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know? And what's really interesting about these is that they actually aren't just one flower. They're a number of different flowers altogether. In the yellow in the centre, that's hundreds of flowers.
It's a composite flower, and you can only really see that with a macro lens. If you zoom in and look close, then you see all those little flower heads that to anyone else just looks like part of a single flower. Well, I think we should get some shots of these.
Yep, definitely.
So is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, that looks exactly like what I'm looking for.
And this is?
So this is a wild orchid. This actually looks like it's a hybrid between two orchids. It looks like it's a cross between a southern marsh orchid and a common spotted orchid.
And this is the only location within the city of Nottingham where you can find these species?
Absolutely, this is a very special site. They seem to like the ground here.
Well, Claire, I'm really pleased you've found us a flowering orchid. That's this quest completed. Finally, I'm off to do a bit of birding with Rob Hoare. If you're looking for an expert in recording rare bird species in and around Nottingham, Rob is your man. He's travelled all over the UK with his passion for ornithology, but his popular website, Clifton Grove Birds, records species much closer to home. This is a very dramatic backdrop, Rob. Ratcliffe-on-Soar Power Station. I mean, that's really imposing on the landscape. And I gather there's a peregrine box on one of the towers.
There is, Mark. There's one that's been installed on the far calling tower. It's been there for about 10 years now.
But we're not here for peregrines.
No, today we're here for corn bunting.
And is this a good site for corn bunting?
This is a very good site. And I think I've got one already, Mark.
Oh, well, that didn't take you long. Whereabouts?
There's one just sat on that bramble just over there.
So the corn bunting is in decline?
Yes, it's in decline nationwide.
Nationwide?
Nationwide.
And what do you think the reason for the decline might be?
Probably agricultural changes with lack of insect to feed the youngsters.
Due to pesticides?
Due to pesticides, yes.
And yet this is one of the stronger areas for corn buntings in Nottingham?
Yeah, this is one of the best sites for them, actually. There's probably about 7 pairs breeding here now.
But only 7 pairs?
Only 7 pairs, and that's a good site. I think I've got another one by the A453.
Right by the road?
Yeah, just sitting in the bush.
I mean, the thing is that this looks like a piece of wasteland alongside a great monolithic human development, and yet it's a strong point for an endangered bird.
It is, it is.
My last encounter of the day is on the banks of the River Soar in an old boatyard. It's a cracking little yellow wagtail, which Rob tells me he's seen around here before. This is a summer visitor from the African continent, and it's usually found on riversides, just like this one. Well, guys, we had a really good day yesterday, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what you got. Jack, you're first.
So this is my first image. This is of the bullhead that we found together. My second image, This was of some gudgeon all rooting through the gravel looking for some food. And then for my third image, I wanted to get a bit of atmosphere with it, so I went in the tree roots with the light coming through and this shoal of minnows, and you can see there's a male in the background with the breeding colours and the female.
Yeah, the male and breeding colours and the light from above. It looks like almost like a coral reef photo. It's got movement in it.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I was pleased with that one.
Yes, you like that,
Yeah.
Now, Claire, you use macro lenses, so you're on a small scale. So let's see what you've got.
Absolutely. So this is my first image, and we were talking yesterday about oxeye daisies and how they're composites of flowers.
Yes.
And I think this has captured that really well. Actually, you can see all the individual ones beginning to open here on the edge.
The little florets on the edge, so they're all separate.
Absolutely. And then this is another picture of the beautiful orchid we found. This is a close-up on just one of they're actually called leaves and not petals on the orchids. And then the third one, just slightly further away to show how the whole orchid actually looked.
So finally, Rob, at the other end of the photographic scale, telephoto lens and birds, what have you got?
I've got a nice yellow wagtail mark. This was feeding on the edge of the agricultural fields.
Okay.
My second one is a common tern that was fishing on the marina.
That's a turn on the turn.
It is, yes. And my final image, it's one of my favourites, the corn bunter. It's just holding territory in that area.
Yeah. That is a superb study. It just works. I've really enjoyed looking at your photographs. They're all winners, but I have to pick one. And in that case, I think I've got to go for the most endangered species. So, Rob, that's for your corn bunting.
Thank you very much, Mark.
But nobody goes home empty-handed. So Jacques and Claire.
Thank you.
Impressive stuff. It goes to show there's a bounty of wildlife right on your doorstep, even if you live in a big city.
There were some fantastic shots there, although I think if it were me, I would have gone for the minnows. Anyway, it just goes to show what amazing wildlife there is in and around Nottingham. I'm at Martin's Pond, a small city reserve, and I've just spotted a coot nest building, or rather doing a bit of DIY on her nest and feeding her chicks. Our next story is about a creature which is quite possibly the fastest animal on the planet. It's a bird of prey, and it's set up its home in the urban hustle and bustle of some of our great cities like London, Lincoln and Liverpool. But the story of its taste for city living started in Derby, and that's where I headed for a wild encounter. Welcome to Willington in Derbyshire. This is where our peregrine story starts. It was a guy called John Barefoot who originally kicked off the project. He asked steeplejacks to climb right up there near the top of the cooling tower, and they fitted this nesting tray, even got the original plans from 20 years back. And it was a success. Peregrines came, they raised their chicks, and local people flocked from the surrounding area to watch them. What happened at Willington was the start of something big. It kicked off urban peregrine conservation in the East Midlands. And nowadays, if you're after an almost guaranteed close encounter with one of Britain's swiftest avian predators, you can find them in the city as well as the countryside. My first stop is Nottingham Trent University. So David, you've gone all CSI, you've been collecting the DNA from the peregrines, from their feathers and droppings. Can you tell me what that's all about?
Peregrine chicks are stolen every year from nests, and that's an important consideration when carrying out this kind of analysis. And so by collecting this material, initially from these falcons and from others in the area, we'll be able to have DNA available should any of the chicks be stolen. And then that will allow us to confirm the identity of any chicks that are perhaps recovered through police investigations.
As we've been talking, I spotted one of the peregrines. They're up on the building there, just near the top. You can just see an adult, just right on the corner, just below the mast. Just an incredible rate of growth, isn't it? I mean, it takes them 6 weeks from hatching until they get to be able to be fully fledged and fly about and hunt by themselves.
They're still covered in their white fluffy chick feathers, so they still look like chicks. However, they're quite large now. They're like large white fluffy footballs, and they have quite a well-developed beak, so they will give anybody a nasty scratch if they get too close.
It's been the best part of a decade since peregrines started nesting here in Nottingham city centre on the Newton building. But it's only since around 2007 that they've actually managed to raise chicks. So partly as a way of protecting the fledglings, a web camera has been installed. But the footage from that camera has proved increasingly popular. I've been allowed access to the Peregrine HQ. Hi Grant. I have to say this is the poshest wildlife control centre I've been in. So what we're watching here is the live stream from the Peregrine's nest site. And I had a little look before we came here, but I didn't realise that you could actually control the cameras.
Yeah, we can. So we installed this camera 2 years ago now, and it gives us 360-degree control. So as you can see, at 1 minute we're looking close in at the nest, at the chicks. But you can see that one of the adults is on the ledge now. He or she has just flown in just to keep an eye on the chicks. But the camera's been fantastic because you can spin it around, and especially when the chicks get more mobile, you often lose sight of them if you've just got a nest box shot. So this one, we can actually follow them along and hopefully get a shot of them taking their first leap off the ledge.
Besides the live video feed, Grant's also compiled some of the peregrine's best bits caught on camera, like this bizarre encounter with the hunter and the hunted. That's quite funny because they're just ignoring each other, aren't they?
Yeah, he does get away actually, this little pigeon. You can see
that peregrine must be quite full. I can't emphasise enough how important it is to keep tabs on individual peregrines because of the risk of bird theft. But it's also really useful for conservationists who want to track the chicks and see where they end up as adult birds. I'm off to Derby to see exactly how they're going to do that. If you look at this from a peregrine's point of view, these old buildings with their ledges kind of replicate the rocky cliffs along the seashore where peregrines normally nest. So cathedrals in places like Norwich, Worcester and Derby have become a perfect place for peregrines to rear their chicks. Now I'm really excited because I've got the chance to get this close, practically a beak length away from some peregrine chicks. I'm joining a team from Derbyshire Wildlife Trust who are letting me watch them ring the chicks, as it's called. It's a simple process, placing a unique ring around each chick's leg. This will identify individual birds throughout their lifetime, even from a distance. There's just one challenge. It means sending someone on a rope over the edge. It sounds like it could be quite distressing for the mother. You know, she's circling around wondering what's happening.
Never mind about her. What about me?
Oh, I'm not bothered about you. You're on a rope. You're fine.
Obviously, they'll get agitated because they don't understand what's happening. As far as they're aware, we're just predators who are after their young. So, yeah, they will get agitated. But as long as we're quick, it's not a problem. You know, you'll see the birds will be flying around. After about 5 minutes, they should calm down and they'll just carry on flying around, watching, seeing what's cracking off, and then they'll probably settle down on Jury's Inn over there and hope that they'll be on telly.
The job of abseiling down the cathedral has gone to Martin Room. He carefully places the baby birds in a bag and lowers them down the side of the cathedral. They're then swiftly taken inside for a health check, a DNA swab, and to attach the identification rings around their leg. So Nick, this is a really successful project, and it's been one of the longest running.
Absolutely, yes. We started in 2005 when we identified the birds were here. They didn't have anywhere to nest, so 2006 we put the nest platform up, and they've nested every year since and reared young every year since.
That's fantastic. So it's the same pair that have been coming back and raising chicks?
Absolutely, yes. We don't know where they came from. They're both unringed, but we know from their habits that they are the same birds we've had all along.
So the timing is quite critical for ringing the birds, isn't it?
It is indeed. If they get much bigger than this, they get quite feisty and they get on their backs and they grapple with their talons and they're difficult to deal with. But at this age, as you can see, they're pretty quiet and they stay pretty still. And so this is just the right age to catch them.
Oh, they're adorable. The talons on this little chick are really long and pretty formidable, even though it's quite tiny. But peregrines are famous for these incredibly fast stoops, but it's not the talons that actually kills the prey, it's its beak. All too quickly, my brief encounter with these city chicks is over. Peregrines have had a tough time in the countryside, from egg collectors, bird theft, and even some rogue pigeon fanciers who've targeted their nests, blaming peregrines for the loss of their birds. But it's encouraging to see that a small army of volunteers are dedicated to conserving and protecting this British bird. So next time you're in town, as well as window shopping, look up. You could well see Derby and Nottingham's feathered friends. Oh, that was a great day out, although it was a bit wet. Now, I've been joined by some friends from Mellors Primary School. This is their eco team. Now, the thing about birding in broad daylight is that it's only half the story. Much of our urban wildlife comes out after we've called it a day. So that's why we sent night owl Mike Dilger out with his torch and some locals from Leicester to see what nighttime wildlife they could find.
It's the start of the weekend, and as the pubs, clubs and taxi drivers prepare for a busy Friday night in Leicester, there's another group just down the road who are planning their own wild night. Only this lot need wellies, and there's not a kebab or a pint in sight. If you live around here, you don't have to go far to find our wild neighbours. I'm at Aylstone Meadows, a nature reserve right in the heart of the city.
Can you see anything?
And this is Leicester's BioBlitz, an event organised by the City Council and the Wildlife Trust. It's open to anyone and the plan is to survey as much wildlife as possible in 24 hours. I'm here to lend a hand and we're in for a busy night.
Water louse.
Yeah, well done, that's a freshwater hog louse. That's a ram's horn snail, because it looks like a male sheep's horn. Have you seen this? Look what I found. See this fish with a red belly? That's a male stickleback, a 3-spine stickleback. They use these beautiful colours to attract females, and they're an unusual fish because they don't have scales. Well, it's 10 o'clock at night and the wildlife's getting difficult to find, and for obvious reasons, almost impossible to see. So, we need some help. This group is on a bat walk.
We've come to the canal because this is where there'll be lots of insects, so hopefully we'll hear some bats feeding on these insects. There'll be things like mosquitoes and midges. So if you keep your bat detector at 45, hopefully we'll pick up some common pipistrelles. So yes, keep an ear out.
The detectors convert the bat's ultrasonic echolocation into sounds that we can hear. It's called heterodyning. See, there's a common pipistrelle. All of a sudden in the middle you hear a like a raspberry, and that's basically called a feeding buzz. That's them honing in and then eating an insect. Another one there. You hear that? All the raspberries. During the day, when they're not feeding, bats live in these abandoned factories on the edge of the reserve. But some prefer their home comforts.
A lot of people, they won't realise they'll be watching the telly, but actually in their loft there'll be a group of bats there, which they should be very pleased to have.
So really the combination might be over there with the houses, but actually the food is in the reserve.
That's it, the food's in the reserve, yes, yeah.
It's like you or me popping out for a takeaway. Mosquito burger, anyone? Elsewhere in the city, Barry Ingram has been going wild with technology. He's been out and about catching some larger mammals on his camera.
This whole place is alive while we're tucked up in our beds fast asleep.
Barry spent many a night down at the Outdoor Pursuit Centre in Leicester. He says it's a wildlife hotspot.
Camera traps detect movement and heat of creatures coming by. So they're compact cameras, they've got a built-in flash, and they've got a kind of heat motion detector. We get birds, occasionally we get owls and herons even hunt at night. We get the mammals such as the badgers and the foxes and even otters.
It really is astounding. This is under just one bridge in the city of Leicester.
The creatures that come through here, they don't seem to be disturbed by my presence. I'm here several times a week, and also with the Outdoor Pursuit Centre canoeist, and also with this main road above them. These are city living wild creatures. They're used to all that kind of noise.
We've actually got a badger set towards the back of the site, and the badger actually wanders across the drive almost on a weekly basis. Someone comes in saying, "I've just seen a badger running across the top of your drive."
Well, the Aylstone Meadows BioBlitz is in full swing now, and there are some strange glows in the bushes. Lights like this on a nature reserve late at night only mean one thing: there are moth trappers out and about, and I think they've had some success. For any self-respecting BioBlitz, you've got to have a bit of moth trapping, haven't you?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, you can add species at a time of day when there's not other things flying. So normally on a good night you could add, 100, 200 species.
Now this one is a Bobby Dazzler.
Yeah, this one's called the purple thorn, and it's quite unique because there's no other moth that holds its wings quite in that sort of position. So yeah, a fairly distinctive one, and it's a nice moth to get. This one's called the satellite, and you have to look really closely, but it's a brown moth with a white spot on its wing. But next to that big white spot is a tiny little white spot, and that's where it gets its name of the satellite, a bit like a satellite going around a planet.
Why do you think this reserve is so good for moths?
Well, I think the thing is, the river's always been here, so it's a long-established natural habitat. So, it's got good trees, good plants growing. And I think what the local council is doing is excellent in that they're planting up native trees and shrubs and improving the variety of habitats in the area.
It'd be great to get foxes and otters interacting perhaps, or even foxes and badgers and otters.
Barry's been having some more success with his camera trap. The city really does come alive at night, with animals clocking on for the night shift.
They're going about their business, they're feeding, they're looking for territory, they're looking for mates, they're looking to find a home, and exactly what we're doing up there during the daytime.
Fantastic.
If you fancy having a wild night of your own, why not check out your Wildlife Trust website and see if there's a BioBlitz going on near you. Or get one of these cameras like Barry, they're not expensive, and start making your own wildlife home movies.
Really in cities you've got quite a very condensed area of different habitats, and they're really just as good a place to see wildlife as out in the open countryside.
Mike Dilger there having a wild night out in Leicester. And if you want to get involved, you need the net. Not this one, the internet. Log on to bbc.co.uk/Summer of Wildlife and you'll find loads of information about our urban wild neighbours and what's happening near you. So from me and the children of Mellors Primary School, that's it from the urban jungle of Nottingham. Goodbye.